I had an idea that wouldn't let go of me until I programmed it. My name is Satoshi Nakamoto. You don't know me, not yet, but my invention will change your life. I created a singularity in cyberspace, a monetary network that's fully peer-to-peer with no trusted third party. The root problem with our conventional currencies is all the trust that's required to make it work. The central bank must be trusted not to debase the currency, but the history of fiat currencies is full of breaches of that trust.
To suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar.
The stock market is now down 21%.
Fair to say you simply flooded the system with money.
Yes, we did. That's another way to think about it. We did.
Where does it come from? Do you just print it?
We print it digitally.
They don't care about us. They never did and never will. My trust in them is long gone, if it was ever there in the first place. We see it life with our own eyes. It is a giant scam. The banks, the money creation, the rules, everything. A net of lies and corruption, but I'm not resentful about it. I created a weapon, something they cannot stop. I'm fighting back, because I am a cypherpunk. We cypherpunks are in the front row in the fight for freedom in cyberspace. For us, freedom is non-negotiable. Eric Hughes had already said it all in his 1993 manifesto. Privacy is necessary for an open society in the electronic age. We cannot expect governments, corporations, or other large faceless organizations to grant us privacy out of their beneficence. Cypherpunks write code. We know that someone has to write software to defend privacy, and since we can't get privacy unless we all do, we're going to write it. If you control people's money, you can control every aspect of their life. If you surveil people's money, then you know everything you need to know about them. Our monetary system is the perfect tool for totalitarians. Whoever controls the money controls the truth, manipulates the truth, dictates the truth. The natural truth would be that hardworking people earn and keep what they deserve. The manipulated truth is that bankers, politicians, and the state apparatus are lining their pockets, leaving the population with the deterioration of the currency. The magnitude of this crime is beyond comprehension. We are experiencing one of the biggest crimes in the history of mankind, life with our own eyes. But we do not remain idle. We cypherpunks have worked on a digital currency for decades. But all of these currencies failed. My comrades have a good understanding of cryptography, but not of economics. For a currency to be successful, you have to put all the critical pieces together. After countless sleepless nights and moments on the verge of despair, I finally did it. The critical pieces are put together. On 31st October 2008, I sent the Bitcoin white paper to the other cypherpunks explaining my idea. Exactly 491 years before that, Martin Luther nailed his 95 Theses to the Castle Church in Wittenberg, which ultimately led to the separation of church and state. I will do what's long overdue: separate money and state. The white paper is my war declaration. On 3rd January 2009, I hard-coded the first Bitcoin block into existence, the Genesis block. In it, I added a message. The Times 3rd January 2009, Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks, the newspaper headline of the day. 9 days later, I signed a transaction and sent Bitcoin to an address from Hal Finney, another cypherpunk. Hal was a big help, especially in the beginning. I needed someone to kickstart the network with. He's one of the reasons that made Bitcoin's success possible. Bitcoin is not my project. It's a collective project of the cypherpunks. It's the result of 40 years of research and development. I'm only the person who managed to finalize it. And what can I say? The work has paid off. We have changed money forever, and created a tool to destroy the fiat money parasite that has infested humanity. To understand how we achieved this, we need to start with a simple question. What is money? Money is information. The historical, most common form of money were physical objects like gold coins. They were permissionless. You didn't need to ask anyone to use them. They had an unforgeable costliness. It was pretty hard to make more of them, and the information about who owns what was kept by the tokens themselves. The integrity of information was guaranteed by the ownership of the physical objects. You didn't need a central authority for that. For the old age, gold coins were the best kind of money we had. But if we want to break into the digital realm, and since physical objects don't exist in the digital world, we need another solution. Something very simple, a ledger, a list of transactions. Digital money is nothing more than a large database in which it is recorded who sends what to whom, and consequently, who owns how much. That is all. But this creates an unsolvable problem. Whoever is in charge of the ledger entries can simply change and alternate the list. He could spend the same money twice if he wants to, also known as the double spend problem. In the case of a digital list, there are no physical restrictions or law that prevents cheating. If we want a ledger to work, we need a mechanism that grants us an absolute order of things. A needs to be followed by B, not the other way around. For that, we had to merge two technologies together. Our database is the blockchain. The blockchain is like a big digital book in which every transaction is noted down. And every 10 minutes a new page, a new block, is added to the blockchain. So far so good, there is no revolution in this. The revolution is to find a mechanism by which the addition of the new page, and therefore the determination of truth, is not in the hands of a central authority like a government or a central bank, but decentralized. As in the case of gold coins, we want to return to the authority that no participant can manipulate, the laws of nature. For that, we use proof of work. The fundamental question is, how do you ensure that the ones who overlook the adding of new blocks don't cheat? The answer is simple. You make them pay for it if they do. And what do they pay? Energy. The miners have to expend energy to mine new blocks. If the users broadcast their transactions, the miners collect and organize them into a block. Then they compete to solve a cryptographic puzzle through proof of work. Whoever solves this cryptographic puzzle first can propose their block to the other miners. And once the other miners have checked it for adherence with the protocol rules, the successful miner gets a certain amount of Bitcoin as a reward. The block is added to the entire history of transactions, and the process of mining the next block begins. If you are honest and expend energy, you get a reward. If you are dishonest and expend energy, you get nothing, and your energy expenditure is wasted. Proof of work is a feature, not a bug. In order to grant truth in the digital realm, we need an anchor to the physical realm. Computation is the only bridge between the realm of information to the physical realm. Without it, it's impossible to ensure truth in cyberspace. But with this mechanism, we've turned Bitcoin into a truth-making machine. The rules are transparent and set in code. It's fair and honest. Every 10 minutes, a new block of honest transactions comes out, added to this unbreakable and incorruptible chain of transactions. So contrary to most assumptions, miners don't produce Bitcoin, miners produce blocks. And if the blocks are valid, they get rewarded by the network. The energy expenditure is completely independent of the speed at which Bitcoins are mined. Bitcoin's monetary policies are linked to time and not to energy. The protection of the chain is linked to energy, and therefore not dependent on a central authority. If we keep this in mind and compare it to our current monetary system, it is actually terrifying. Our current database of fiat money is not predicated on physics or math or computer code, but on the benevolence of a faceless bureaucracy that has shown time and time again that it is happily willing to finance forever wars, enrich bankers, and rob their population of their money through inflation. You know why Richard Nixon abolished the gold standard in 1971? Because he wanted to finance the Vietnam War. You know why the main European forces quit the gold standard in 1914? To finance the First World War. Under hard money, governments could only fight until they ran out of money. Under fiat, governments can fight until their entire population runs out of wealth saved in money. It is no coincidence that the greatest murderous tyrants, from Hitler to Stalin to Pol Pot and Mao, ran on fiat money. In the fiat century, governments murdered over 169 million people and are therefore by far the most dangerous thing in the world. There is arguably no big difference between being in control of the printing press and owning the ruling ring from Sauron, a ring to enslave them, to find them all, to drive them into darkness and bind them forever. You might think I exaggerate, but you wouldn't say this if you were drafted to the First World War against your will, to the last battles, which were already lost anyway. Lost all your friends, 2 legs, and 1 eye, because a few aristocrats wanted to play war. Or if you lived in Venezuela during the hyperinflation 2010, and your kids starved to death in your arms because you lost all your life savings in a few days and couldn't afford food anymore. Or, a bit more approachable, if you sacrificed many years of your precious lifetime, building a business that has brought value to other people, that went bankrupt because politicians flirted with totalitarianism for 2 years, spent trillions of dollars, and now left you with extremely inflated money. I just wonder, who of these people were truly free? And did they deserve that? Arguably, the wars that led to the abolishment of a healthy monetary system in form of the gold standard never stopped. They simply evolved. Richard Nixon said himself that the abolishment in 1971 is a temporary measure which, strangely enough, continues to this day. We are still using war money, but our wars are for the most part no longer fought in trenches. Instead, we fight wars against pandemics, wars against emissions, wars against poverty, all financed by the creation of new money that makes the population poorer. Almost nobody ever thought about this silent robbery. It was just the way it was, and I don't blame anyone. If you have been ill since birth and everyone else is just as ill as you never realize that you are ill. You only realize it in contrast, when there is suddenly an antidote for your illness. Then you see the world with different eyes. Fiat is the disease. Bitcoin is the antidote. But this antidote was very fragile. Shortly after its birth, Bitcoin was an easy target. It was small and could have easily been crushed by a motivated attacker. I had serious concerns.
Julian Assange, the founder of WikiLeaks, has been put on Interpol's most wanted list.
Tonight in Britain, Julian Assange is awaiting arrest by British police. But the WikiLeaks founder remains defiant, suggesting the US is out to kill him. Tonight, Assange isn't relenting, suggesting that if anything happens to him, all the remaining secret cables will be released to the world at once.
WikiLeaks should learn that the interests of the powerful are not released with impunity. If states commit war crimes and you disclose this information, you are their enemy and will be fought with all severity. I told you, I don't have trust in governments. Because of the leaks, governments censored the common payment transaction channels to WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks was deemed dangerous. And no wonder. For lying criminals, the truth is indeed dangerous. So WikiLeaks turned to Bitcoin, which is permissionless to get donations. It would have been nice to get this attention in any other context. WikiLeaks has kicked the hornet's nest, and the swarm is headed towards us. Even if some words in a legal text don't make Bitcoin disappear, they could have made life very difficult for us. But broken down to first principles, the biggest danger was a 51% attack. If a player wanted to destroy Bitcoin, he could have provided over 50% of the mining power over a longer period of time, and by that destroyed the decentralization and became the only determinator of truth. But we were lucky. The chain survived the storm and was from there on protected by an ever larger growing wall of energy. Since the WikiLeaks controversy in 2010, Bitcoin's hash rate, which represents the total computational power, rose over 650 billion%. I told you, proof of work is a feature, not a bug. A 51% attack is no longer a danger these days. No entity can provide over 50% of the energy in the long term, and by that, David defeated Goliath. We have pulled Bitcoin out of the claws of the powerful once and for all. They had their chance to destroy Bitcoin, and they didn't take it. And in doing so, they paved the way for what came next, which is what all people are looking for. Money, money, and more money. At the beginning, it was considered by most as silly internet money with no economic value. Until a man, Laszlo, had a desperate need for some food. "I'll pay 10,000 bitcoins for a couple of pizzas." Someone replied, "In which country do you live?" "Jacksonville, Florida, United States." I just want to report that I successfully traded 10,000 bitcoins for pizza. The very first purchase, 2 pizzas. In retrospect, probably the most expensive pizza purchase in history. With this purchase, Laszlo opened up an interesting question. What is the value of a Bitcoin? Well, value is subjective, but let's reframe the question. What is the value of a scarce, incorruptible money? There is no clear answer to this. It's a question that everyone has to answer for themselves.
I'm right here watching history be made. Bitcoin is now up to $111.
Bitcoin hit a new record on Friday night, our time, $5,856.10 US.
All-time high. A single coin has achieved $69,202 in trading today, breaking its previous record.
Yesterday you could buy a pizza, and tomorrow a sports car. The market has driven up the price through supply and demand, but how can something virtual see such a price increase? One part is definitely the traders speculating on short-term profits. The price has inflated, like a bubble, and then collapsed. Many compare it to the tulip crisis in the Netherlands in the 17th century. But interestingly enough, Bitcoin has followed this course not once, but 4 times, with ever higher all-time highs. This is not usual for a worthless speculative object. So it seems that there is more to it than what meets the eye. In addition to the short-term speculators who cause extreme price fluctuations, there are long-term investors who see more in Bitcoin than just a worthless speculative object. They see a use case, a solution to a problem. What could this problem be? If we look at the state of the world, we see that 8 billion people have the problem that the money they use makes them poorer. They are robbed of the time they spend earning a living. The battery in which they store their life energy is leaking. Most never realize it. Some believe it's just the way things are. But all of them have this underlying feeling that there is something wrong with the world. As if we took a wrong turn somewhere. You're born into a system where you're not supposed to question it. Waking up from the system is like waking up from the Matrix. Bitcoin offers another reality. It's another game, with different rules. Bitcoin is a monetary battery that doesn't leak. And this is only possible because of Bitcoin's monetary policy. Pure and absolute digital scarcity with Bitcoin's 21 million hard cap. For every block, the successful miner gets a reward in Bitcoin. This reward was at the beginning 50 Bitcoin per block. But every 210,000th block, which is approximately 4 years, this amount is halved, known as the halving event. Today, miners only get 3.125 Bitcoin per block. 19.8 of the 21 million Bitcoin that will ever exist are already mined. 99% of all Bitcoin that will ever exist will be mined by 2035. Bitcoin's monetary policy is anti-inflationary and anticipatory. We know what is going to happen because the rules are transparent. If we now compare the fixed supply that's backed by energy, and that's not controlled by anybody, with the fiat system, which has an unlimited supply, isn't backed by anything and centrally controlled, the discussion of which of the two is the real Ponzi scheme actually becomes pretty clear. Now let's ponder. What happens if billions of people want to switch to a money that doesn't make them poorer? This process will obviously take a long time, but what has happened in recent years, which has resulted in a rapid rise in prices, is the beginning of exactly that. The few people who understand Bitcoin are switching systems. I have created the most scarce resource in the universe. If 8 billion people want Bitcoin, the world will be divided by 21 million. So maybe the biggest risk is having no Bitcoin at all. It might make sense just to get some in case it catches on. If enough people think the same way, that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. But now let's take off our rose-tinted glasses. Not all that glitters is gold. There are loud critics who spotlight the other side of the coin.
Bitcoin is worthless artificial gold.
Development is disgusting and contrary to the interests of civilization.
Bitcoin is going to zero. Zero. When it comes out, zero.
Bitcoin, for the most part, failed in its objective of trying to become a global currency.
The arguments of the critics are numerous and fall usually into one of two categories. First, Bitcoin has no intrinsic value. Value is subjective and is determined by individuals. If I'm dying of thirst, a skateboard has no value to me. If I am a privileged billionaire investor who has profited from the fiat system, then Bitcoin may have no value to me. Different people make different value decisions. Pretty simple. And second of all, that Bitcoin is volatile. It is not a widely accepted currency, and it is not completely decoupled from the traditional markets. Summarized in one sentence, 1.5 decades after its creation, it has not yet achieved all the things that people expected it would achieve. This is true. However, it is not a testimony to Bitcoin's weakness, but of the high time preference and impatience of those who make these arguments. The difference to change in the fiat world is that it is not decided centrally from the top down, but slowly spreads from the bottom up. It takes time for each individual to become aware of this opportunity and make a decision whether or not they want to store their economic energy in it. Bitcoin's principles are engraved in code. These principles and incentives need time to unfold themselves. Something that people who have been too strongly influenced by the fiat system and were perhaps blessed with a pinch of arrogance or pseudo-intellectuality cannot comprehend.
Hello, Neil.
The point is, if there is a need, there is also a usage. In the Western world, there is no big need to use it as a medium of exchange. The bigger need is to have a reliable savings account. However, when we look abroad, to countries with authoritarian regimes, or with difficult or even no access to the traditional financial system, there is a need to use it as a medium of exchange. And that's why these people use Bitcoin as a medium of exchange. The point is that Bitcoin is like digital gold, which has on top of that the capabilities to be a worldwide currency. A comes before B. The bridge between the two is time. Yet I have to admit, since the beginning of Bitcoin, one thing has fundamentally changed. There is competition. Other cryptocurrencies are trying to overtake mine. I taught people how to mint coins, and now many imitators sprang up, most of them with completely nonsensical projects. Blockchain, DeFi, Web3, all empty phrases. If you thought they were similar to Bitcoin, you have fallen for counterfeiters. They are like fiat money on steroids. The rapid devaluation of money through inflation turned the world into a casino. Everyone is trying to make a quick buck. If you saw Bitcoin's rapid rise, and now you are looking for the next big thing, the next big crypto project, I can understand you. But I have one question for you because I forgot. What happened to the wheel, electricity, or the internet? Have they been replaced by the next big thing? Obviously not, because they were the perfect solution for a concrete problem. All human progress and civilization is intertwined with us finding harder money, culminating in gold, which by the late 19th century became the global standard due to its stability and relative low annual supply growth of approximately 2%, allowing people to reliably save for the future. A century of human catastrophe followed when governments banned the monetary use of gold and replaced it with their fiat credit. Saving became unattainable, and the future more uncertain. Governments had attained infinite spending power at the expense of their serfs. Bitcoin solves the problem of preserving wealth by providing a decentralized, inflation-resistant, and secure form of hard money that functions as a global, censorship-resistant savings account. Now I wonder, what problems do the other coins solve? Definitely not this one. I am only mentioning these things to make one thing clear. Bitcoin has nothing to do with any of the other projects. These coins pretend to be money, yet they are defected, crippled copies. Comparing the other coins to the fraudulent US dollar makes more sense, as the fundamental principles are very similar, sometimes exactly the same. Words dictate our perception of the world. Crypto does not equal crypto. In perception, Bitcoin is part of crypto. In reality, crypto is just digital fiat, while Bitcoin is digital gold. Exactly the same applies to figures like Sam Bankman-Fried. Just because he is a criminal fraudster and scammed people with his company FTX that went bankrupt, doesn't make Bitcoin the culprit. That's like saying it's the central bank's fault if a pickpocket steals your wallet. The central bank is to blame for many things, but in this case, it's innocent. If you don't break your understanding of the world into fundamental first principles, it's impossible to tell the difference between poison and its antidote. If Bitcoin does one thing, it teaches humility. In order to enter, you have to put your defective mental models aside and see things for what they truly are, in a critical, differentiated fashion. Only then you can cut through the noise and focus on the signal. Bitcoin is a reminder that the world doesn't revolve around your beliefs. You can avoid reality, but you cannot avoid the consequences of avoiding reality. Bitcoin is based on math and computer code, on the laws of the universe. That's why Bitcoin has refuted most of the arguments against it over time. But unfortunately, one thing remains stubborn: the scaling issue. It can only process 7 transactions per second, compared to Visa, which handles 1,700 transactions per second, or MasterCard, which handles 5,000 transactions per second. How can I claim that it can become a global currency? Maybe I have made a critical mistake. This problem was so pressing that it even led to a conflict in cyberspace. The block size war. Representatives from over 50 companies attended a meeting that resulted in a statement of intent to double the block size from 1 megabyte to 2 megabytes and was called the New York Agreement. Big exchanges, wallet providers, and even 80% of the miners wanted to push this plan forward. Bitcoin faced an acid test. Are a few powerful players now in a position to impose their will? Where is the decentralization? If miners are the determinator of truth and they join forces, are they the rulers of Bitcoin? Luckily, no. I have concealed an important piece of the puzzle from you. Users have the optionality of operating nodes, small computers that store the entire blockchain and connect to the network to check if the new blocks comply with the protocol rules. This little detail turns the users into the most important constituency of all, that were in the case of the New York Agreement by the signatories grossly underestimated. The users communicated very clearly. If you change the block size, our nodes will reject your blocks. By that, Bitcoin would have split into 2 chains, one chain with the old rules and one with the new rules. A network without users disappears into economic irrelevance, and the miners themselves would have destroyed their source of income. And because of that, the miners have rowed back from their plan. But a few conspirators still continued with their plan and created their forked version of Bitcoin. This network is today known as Bitcoin Cash and vanished, as expected, into absolute insignificance. Many Bitcoin forks followed, initiated by people who thought that their vision for Bitcoin is superior. All of these chains only get a few breadcrumbs, while Bitcoin is the shining winner at the top, economically and in terms of network security. But this opens up an important question. Why did the users decide this, since the scaling issue is after all present? Because a doubling or tripling or even tenfold increase of the block size would not have solved the underlying problem of potentially recording all global transactions on the blockchain. If we wanted to have every transaction on the blockchain, we would probably have to increase the block size by a factor of 1 million. Technically, this is absolutely no problem, but by that we destroy the network security. A block size increase by 1 million would mean that the blocks are 1 terabyte big. By comparison, the current complete blockchain since 2009 is only 600 gigabytes in size. Guaranteeing an extra terabyte of storage space every 10 minutes is unaffordable for normal users. So instead of having tenths of thousands of independent node users, we would be forced to subordinate ourselves to large companies that are the only ones who are able to finance these storage volumes. This centralizes the network, and the users lose their influence and are degraded to serfs, as in the fiat system. That's why having a relatively low transaction volume is a feature and not a bug. So if there's no way we can scale the network without centralizing it, we have to think of a better solution. Hal understood this from the beginning. There needs to be a secondary level of payment systems which is lighter weight and more efficient. Bitcoin functions as the secure settlement network. Bitcoin transactions will be carved in code for as long as Bitcoin exists, reasonably for hundreds, thousands, maybe tens of thousands of years. There is no need to track your daily coffee purchase in the Bitcoin blockchain. To achieve the maximum in decentralization and security for Bitcoin, we have outsourced the scalability. Second and third layer technologies like the Lightning Network are built on top of Bitcoin and allow us to send 1 million transactions per second with the speed of light for the fraction of a penny. If, for whatever reason, you don't like the idea of second and third layer technologies and you want Bitcoin with bigger blocks, you're welcome to join one of the many hard forks. The point of Bitcoin is freedom. You can make your own decision. Nobody prevents you from participating there. After all, if you think my views, or the ones of the Bitcoin maximalists, are extreme, wait until you meet fiat maximalists. We propose and stand for a system that is based on freedom, peace, property rights, and truth, while our counterpart embraces and relies on enslavement, violence, mass impoverishment, and deception. While Bitcoin's cost is simply measured in the energy consumption, the fiat system's energy requirement rounds up to 0, because the real cost of fiat lies somewhere else. The real cost is the deterioration of every area of life. We are in a race between technology-driven abundance and government-driven poverty. Inflation is the most regressive tax. The rich can protect themselves by buying hard assets which benefit from inflation, while the poor primarily hold their cash reserves.
And I cannot afford to live.
Unsurprisingly, fiat parasites who talk all day long about inequality never mention this, but blame the rich, other countries, the weather, or something else. Everyone else is to blame for the fact that the population is getting poorer, apart from those who print money. And because everyone else is to blame, the state, the supposed Samaritan, has to print even more money to protect the population from the enemy, which in reality creates even more economic distortions. In any conflict or debate, The fiat money printer is always on the evil and wrong side. If your side is financed by devaluing other people's money, you're wrong and evil. It's binary. Robbery, deception, and violence are evil. Propaganda, manipulation, and lies do not undo this reality. It may sound harsh, but what I care about is the reality of goodness, not the perception of it. There was truth and there was untruth, and if you clung to the truth, even against the whole world, you are not mad. If we no longer want to bear the costs of the fiat system, we have to tolerate the costs of an alternative system, since nothing of value comes without a sacrifice. Cars, washing machines, airplanes, computers, steel, and many other modern technologies which are a fundamental part of our lives spend a lot of electricity. Yet we produce and use them because they are worth it. Why would you choose a different standard for monetary technology that offers an incorruptible, sound money that protects people from lifelong debt slavery? But anyway, as I already said, it doesn't matter what you think. History has shown that reality and technology do not stop because of the opinions of individuals, and that you can't insulate yourself from the consequences of others holding money that is harder than yours. You will either move there, or you will lose your value. Bitcoin adoption is not like the adoption of the iPhone, where it's nice and good to have new technology, but more like the adoption of gunpowder. The French army didn't have a choice whether or not they adopt gunpowder. They would either adapt or get destroyed. Bitcoin is financial gunpowder. Bitcoin doesn't need marketing because economic reality will prevail. The hardest money wins. Gold beats silver, not because gold had better marketing, but because of economic reality. Gold supply grew at a much slower rate than silver, so the value of silver declined. Bitcoin supply growth is heading towards zero. While everything in the world expands, Bitcoin's supply is capped. Economic reality will also prevail in this case. You can avoid economic reality, but you cannot avoid the consequences of avoiding economic reality. So maybe it would be a good idea to understand absolute scarcity before the majority does. Fundamentally, this is the one promise Bitcoin offers you, that there will never be more than 21 million. The consequences of this principle will unfold themselves across time. The future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. My goodness. I mean, I don't want to praise myself, but that was pretty good. And yes, I know that was a lot to take in. But still, if you don't believe it or don't get it, I don't have that much time left to try to convince you. Sorry for that, but only two things are genuinely scarce: Bitcoin and time. And I value my time a lot. Nonetheless, we are not done yet. As the saying goes, the best is saved for last.
That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch.
There has never been a government that didn't sooner or later try to reduce the freedom of its subjects and gain more control over them, and there probably will never be one. Therefore, instead of trying to convince our current government not to try, we cypherpunks develop the technology that will make it impossible for the government to succeed. We continue the freedom saga of the individuals of the human race. Somebody grows up, and they struggle against the overwhelming collective. The system works against them, so they build a ship and sail away to the new world that is less governed and more free. Today, every place is already discovered and in bondage to the fiat system. So where is the next frontier for those thirsting for freedom? It's in cyberspace. You can choose where to locate your body, you can choose where to locate your mind, and finally, you can choose where to place your wealth, which is nothing less than your labor, your sacrifice, time, and energy. So, when the powers that be devalue your wealth, they devalue your time and energy. Every time the government prints a dollar, they devalue you and your life. By that, the decision where to place your wealth is one of the most important decisions in your life. The reason the matrix works is because you don't realize you are in the matrix. It's realistic enough to feel real, but it's just not real. Life in an inflationary world is exactly like that. It feels real. You don't see the bug, but it's simply not real. The world we grew up in is manipulated. If you use solely your life experience as a reference for your understanding of the world, your paradigm is fragmented and broken. You have to zoom out, study history, and detach yourself from groupthink. Bitcoin is a paradigm that takes apart your understanding of the world and puts it back together. It's unlike anything we've ever seen before, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Fiat's policy is democratic at best. In a functioning democracy, the majority decides. In a dysfunctional democracy, the elite and the bureaucratic apparatus decides. In Bitcoin, all participants agree on the lowest common denominator, which are the protocol rules. It is not based on coercion, but on voluntariness, on a protocol-based consensus. The tickets to escape the fiat insanity are priced in Bitcoin, while nobody is putting a gun to your head if you don't want to buy them. Nobody is forcing you to deal with Bitcoin. Nobody is forcing you to buy Bitcoin. The difference to the old world is that Bitcoin is voluntary. If you believe that Bitcoin solves a problem for you, be it inflation and the loss of purchasing power or censorship or something else, you can join the Ark anytime. Bitcoin is the ship to sail into the new world, and it is the only ship we have. I created Bitcoin in plain sight. We didn't have too many eyeballs, and we're lucky that the eyeballs we had didn't crush us. Recreating digital scarcity is off the table. That's why Bitcoin is a singularity. One shot, one opportunity to seize everything we ever wanted. Oh, and one more thing I forgot to mention, my identity. It remains unsolved. In April 2011, I sent my last public known email to Bitcoin developer Mike Hearn. I had a few other things on my mind, as always. I've moved on to other things. Bitcoin is in good hands. This statement was my official withdrawal. You haven't heard from me since. You want to know who I really am? I get it. But the truth is, you don't want to know. You love the hunt. You love the puzzling, the pondering. You don't want to know the answer. And if you were honest with yourself, you would know that. Either way, I'll take the decision from you. You'll never find out who I am. I am Satoshi, no one else. Bitcoin is my gift to the world. My disappearance is the crowning conclusion. I created a way, gave it away, and walked away. Bitcoin isn't about me, it's about you and everyone else.